So I have Brad Buchanan here with me, and I've actually read into your history quite a bit, and it seems very, very interesting, your story. So if we could start off with you telling me a little bit about, how your ranch came to be, Flying Bee Bar, and your story.
Well, I would say we're an accidental rancher. I'm an architect and a planner by education and profession, and I've always been interested in land use and how ecology and systems work to affect land use and cities and urban places and rural places, um, and bought a hundred-year-old cattle operation in Strasburg, Colorado in 2006 with the intention of actually raising and training field trial retrievers, but quickly became apparent to me that that land needed the cattle on the land. And it just fascinated me what the land did after the cattle left, and in good things and bad things. And so I bought some cattle to try to work back into the ecosystem, and from that moment on just have been hooked, and we started out with 500 acres, and now ranch has grown to 8,000 acres, and about 900 head of cattle, and a number of folks working here, and a direct to consumer business that sold just shy of $2 million worth of grass-fed beef to a whole bunch of happy customers just this last year.
That's amazing. That's an amazing history. When I was reading about you, I know that you referred to your ranch as your rural experiment. What exactly does that mean?
So like I mentioned, I'm an architect, and I had an architecture firm in Denver, and was very involved in planning efforts around Denver. And actually, I chaired the Denver Planning Commission for 9 years, and then I was a cabinet member under Mayor Hancock's cabinet. I was the planning director for the city of Denver from 2013 to 2018. And so I was in the middle of planning one of the fastest growing cities in the United States for 5 years. And looking at the issues the city dealt with, and really Denver is a story, sort of a victim of its own success. I mean, the issues Denver has are all symptoms of the success it's had: affordable housing, traffic, air quality, equity issues, social justice issues, food equity issues, and so when we bought this first piece of ground in Strasburg, Colorado, just 33 miles from the city and county building and right in downtown Denver, it just amazed me the difference between the rural place and the urban place. And I was stunned at how disconnected they were, yet so close to each other. And was able to see all the different influences they had, and quite frankly, the missed opportunities from the lack of understanding or communication that occurs between the urban place and the rural place. Strasburg, it's a different politic. They speak a different language. It's a different economy. It's a different culture. It's a different set of priorities. It's a different work ethic. It's a different family life. It's a different municipal and regulatory structure than downtown. And yet both of these places, I'll pick on Strasburg and Denver just for another minute, they have so much to offer each other. And in fact, I got asked, the Mile High TEDx folks asked me to do a TED Talk in 2014 because they thought it was a little bit odd that I was, a cattle rancher and the planning director of such a large U.S. city. And they wanted to hear that story. And I talked a little bit about, a lot about the relationship between the urban place and the rural place and what they have to offer to each other. But they, the opportunities that exist there are enormous, and I think today more than ever, it's important that we work on that connection. I'll quickly add too that I had the wonderful opportunity to move from being planning director to the position I'm in now, my other full time job, where I'm the CEO of the National Western Center Authority, and the National Western Center complex is all about making that connection, right? It's about creating that rural place in the city, and creating a place where the city gets to sort of exercise and understand their rural roots, and the agricultural traditions and the agricultural economy that is so important for the state of Colorado. So that blurring these lines and learning from each other between the urban and the rural place is something I am extremely passionate about. Now, to your question about the ranch being this rural experiment, this land use experiment, that is what it has been. How can we create a sustainable, regenerative, financially sustainable operation in a world where generally smaller agricultural operations don't thrive much today? And we've been working at it since 2006, and this year, was honestly our first year in the black, 2020, and that's a good thing. We're proving up our experiment. I knew we'd get there. I didn't know how long it would take, but we've managed to pull it off, and I'm pretty proud of the whole team that's worked so hard to get there.
What do you see as some of the negative consequences of people being disconnected with their food?
Well, I mean, the fact that folks don't understand where their food comes from is just a tragedy, and the disconnect between buyers and producers, when in fact they both truly want that connection. I mean, our ranch, for example, we ship beef from here at the ranch, but we do a lot of beef where our buyers come out here to the ranch to pick it up. We're 45 minutes from downtown Denver, and they really like it because they're just kind of starving to know where their food comes from, particularly through the pandemic, where a lot of folks had time in their home, a lot of time in front of a computer screen, and were looking at ways to source ethically produced, humanely produced, sustainably produced, locally produced proteins and produce. And so we've had our buyers, they seek us out. We do some social media advertising, but they find us because they want it. And so thank goodness today we're starting to see particularly from the urban place, but in the rural place too, in the cities, people really looking to source better foods that they're going to feed for themselves and their families.
So how have your regenerative agriculture practices transformed your ranch, and how is that restoring an age-old process in the North American shortgrass prairies?
So the shortgrass prairies of eastern Colorado are incredibly fragile lands, and particularly in a year like this, where we're in a significant drought right now. It's been a process of trial and error for us. I really tried to find folks who were doing what we were doing, who were trying to intensively graze, rotationally graze, mob graze on the eastern plains. I really wasn't finding very much of it, a believer that if Alan Savory can do it in Zimbabwe, you can certainly do it on the Eastern Plains of Colorado, and you can, and we've proved it. We move our cattle a lot through paddocks throughout the ranch. We're usually running 5 different herds of cattle here at the ranch. We've got mamas, calves, yearlings, our almost finished animals we call fats, and our bull herd. So right now we have 5 different herds moving around. They get moved even now in the winter regularly, although it's more important to be moving them during the peak of the growing season than it is right now. But that's been critically important. The other thing we've done is that we produce all of our own hay. We grow all of our own hay. So we farm 3,700 acres to create all of the hay that we feed to our animals, because I want to know all the inputs into our cattle. We use cattle as a farming tool, and farming as a ranching tool, as a cattle tool, and it works really well. We graze hay. We'll plant triticale, which is a wheat and ryegrass hybrid, and in the spring go into it, graze it, pull the cattle off, go back to it, let it come up. I mean, last year we had good spring rains. We had cattle on triticale 5 different times just in one big field we had. So we can get incredible efficiency that way, or we let it grow and we bale it and we strip feed it in the winter. This year, a longer period of time because of the fall drought we've had. Started feeding hay earlier than we'd like, but that ability to feed hay in farm fields in strips that produce puts organic matter back into the field, and then with the cattle on the field themselves, cattle poop on the field and that gets tilled back in if it's a tilled field, or sits on top if it's a no-till field. We've had really good luck with that, even here on the drier Eastern Plains of Colorado.
So I want to get into AGA a little bit. Why are your AGA certified products different than just any meat that you could go and buy at the supermarket?
I mean, the reason we choose to do the work, did the research in the first place, and continue, I don't know how, we think we've been AGA members now for probably more than a dozen years, and an AGA certified producer all that time too, is that the requirements, the guidelines and standards are, we think, most relevant. I mean, they are strict and rigid where they should be. They are more standards where they should be. They are guidelines where they should be. And it's a producer-driven organization. There's so many different kinds of expertise around the table in the AGA staff and board. It's a well-conceived model and a wisely regulated system, both from the inspection and audit and certification processes to the outcomes that they're focused on. So we've found it, and we've looked at all of them. We've looked at all the certifications out there, and we, at the end of the day, AGA is the only one that we choose to pursue, and will continue to do so, I'm sure for years to come.
So how does this help you in marketing your products? Like, what does that mean to consumers when they see that AGA label?
Well, I think it means a lot to some, and maybe not much to too many of them, quite frankly. One of AGA's missions is to educate buyers so that they are looking for a certification like AGA's to know what they're getting. There's a lot of greenwashing of beef out there, and without American Grass-Fed Association certification on it and that AGA logo on it, you can't be sure of what you're getting. And I wish more buyers knew that. We certainly educate our buyers, and AGA spends a lot of time and effort doing that as well. And we'll continue, that'll continue to happen. I do think that buyers are becoming more and more savvy about that some of these games that are getting played. Um, you know, it's but once folks figure out what what true grass-fed means in terms of just flavor profile and quality of the meat, um, that they figure out that it was produced in a regenerative way that really is truly better for the animals, better for the planet, and better for the consumers themselves. Um, they never go back, and that's how we've built our customer base. When they really learn about what they're getting and what they didn't know before they bought, you know, it changes the way they buy meat and their protein for their family forever.
So I think you've convinced me. How can we all get our hands on your products for all our viewers out there?
So we've got an online store at flyingbbar.com, www.flyingbbar.com. We've got pretty active social media presence, Flying Bee Bar Ranch on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram feeds. So look us up. You can find us easy just with Flying Bee Bar pretty much anywhere. Go to the website, really easy online store. I don't know, maybe 80 or 90 different single cuts you can buy there, or you can buy an eighth, quarter, half, or a whole beef. We slaughter cattle every week, 52 weeks a year. We do pickups 3 days a week here at the ranch. We ship 2 days a week. So we make it pretty easy for people to get us.
Sounds like you're really busy. So I know you are, because I was reading about the grass-fed market over the past the past decade, and how it's exploded. I mean, really exploded. And I was reading a figure from Business Wire this morning that was talking about how in the next 5 years, they're looking at an increase of $14.5 billion globally, which is just really, really exciting for anybody that's involved in that. So how does it feel to be one of the true pioneers of like the grass-fed movement that's been so successful?
Well, there are a lot of folks that came before us and working at this a whole lot longer. Carrie, your executive director is one of them. She's been at this a long, long time before me. But it takes every one of us, everybody with an oar in the water, rowing in the same direction hard, because this is not easy work, and it's not convenient work because it's disruptive, right? I mean, the regenerative agriculture and grass-fed beef is a disruptive industry right now. The best compliment we can receive right now is that we're somehow perceived as a threat. So I think we're doing something right, and we're producing something that more and more customers want, and we're gonna keep doing that for years to come.
Thank you so much, Brad.